Was Jesus' death on the cross a failure? Is Al unwilling to call out the Pope? And why are some, especially loud Catholics, hostile about the papal visit? This is Free Range Q&A with Al Kresta. Hi, and welcome to this edition of Free Range Q&A with Al Kresta. I'm Nick Tom, and of course this is Al Kresta, and we are going to take your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and email at freerange@avemariaradio.net. Let's get to the first question. Okay. Josh in Ann Arbor says, Al, a friend of mine claims that Pope Francis in his homily at St. Patrick's Cathedral said Jesus' death on the cross was a failure. He says he can't digest or defend this as a Catholic.
Yeah, well, look, whenever a wise man seems to say something stupid, it's always good to go back and make sure you heard him correctly.
Actually read it.
So let's go ahead and do that because we've got the Pope's remarks here. This was made at St. Patrick's Cathedral on the 24th of September, and he was speaking to priests and religious. That's especially important in interpreting his remarks. This is what he said, quote, "We can get caught up in measuring the value of our apostolic works by the standards of efficiency, good management, and outward success which govern the business world. Not that these things are unimportant. We have been entrusted with a great responsibility, and God's people rightly expect accountability from us. But the true worth of our apostolate is measured by the value it has in God's eyes. To see and evaluate things from God's perspective calls for constant conversion in the first days and years of our vocation. And need I say, it calls for great humility. The cross shows us a different way of measuring success. Ours is to plant the seeds. God sees to the fruits of our labor. And if at times our efforts and works seem to fail and produce no fruit, we need to remember that we are followers of Jesus, and his life, humanly speaking, ended in failure, in the failure of the cross." Well, the key words here that are omitted is obviously the words humanly speaking. The cross was a failure, humanly speaking. Almost all of the apostles didn't want to be identified with Jesus. When Paul was Saul of Tarsus, a Pharisee of the Pharisees, he knew that Messiah couldn't be executed as a criminal according to the law, so Jesus' death appeared a failure. It was a case of the emperor having literally no clothes on. This was a case of big Messiah being shown to be a sniveling false prophet. Here he was, kind of a romantic, utopian, lilies of the field dreamer. He promised us a kingdom, and all we got were these empty promises. That's the way it looked on Good Friday. But you know what? If you had held stock in the Jesus is Lord Corporation and you saw the Hebrew Dow Jones dip on Good Friday, you shouldn't be selling, because 3 days later those stocks were rising again. And of course, Jesus went on to be the most influential person in human history. The key lesson here is, don't worry. When you see a wise man say something that appears stupid, just go back and double check. 99 out of 100 times you're going to find out he wasn't the stupid one.
You could even put some money on the futures in the Jesus stock.
Bullish.
It turned out pretty well.
Bullish about the cross, yeah.
Let's go to Sarah in Boston. Why are you unwilling to call out the Pope for saying things that are hard to swallow and digest?
It's a bit of a strange question. I mean, what position am I in to call the Pope out on, right? He's the Pope after all, and you kind of have some pretty good reasons to call him out. Now, there can be adult disagreements about some prudential judgments, but I'm looking here at some notes that I made, and I say to call him out in that kind of crass way presupposes that I know better than he does what he's trying to accomplish. So what was he planning to spank Nancy Pelosi? Was he planning to embarrass President Obama? Was he going to make everybody watch the Planned Parenthood videos and try to get Planned Parenthood defunded? I mean, think about this for a minute. To call him out means that you understand better than he does what his job description is and what his agenda is. So, no, I don't call him out because I think it's irreverent, first of all, to do that. I certainly do wonder publicly about things that he does, and at certain times I can say I disagree. I'll have more to say on this at a video that we're producing, which goes into these kinds of questions a little more deeply than I can do it on one of the free range segments.
Very good. Another papal question: why are some Catholics less than enthusiastic about Pope Francis's trip?
Well, I think because they misunderstand his communications and evangelistic strategy. In fact, we're going to spend time on that in this larger video commentary that we'll have produced. But what Pope Francis was trying to do, it seems to me abundantly clear, is that he was trying to hit a reset button. Whether he was right or wrong, he perceived that American Catholicism had been hampered by its identification with the culture wars and the religious right. This is why he mutes some of his statements that might be considered more conservative, and also why he tends to trumpet some of his statements which people see as politically more liberal. I think he was trying to clear the deck and let the world know that the aspirations they have, whether it's for a clean planet, whether it's for the abolition of poverty, whether it's for the end of the death penalty, that the Catholic Church is also aspiring to those things. Now, we may have very different ways of going about it, but at least we share common aspirations. As I said, we'll go more into depth in this video because it just will take too long to do it right here on free range.
Yeah, it's going to be a substantive video. You know, we probably got more emails and Facebook questions about the Pope's visit than anything I remember in the recent past.
Yeah, and in my case anyways, the vast majority of them were negative, about 12 to 1, upset with the Holy Father for one thing he did or didn't do. And so I think, I do understand how people felt, why people felt that way. I felt that way after the White House address when he was first here. But we spent a lot of time digging and searching and reading and trying to understand what his evangelistic strategy is. It's different than John Paul II and Benedict XVI. His doctrine is the same, his social teaching is the same, but his evangelistic strategy is different for a different time in history.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned for that longer commentary, and I'm sure we'll have more answers to questions about the Pope here on Free Range Q&A with Al Kresta. Thank you for joining us, and if you want to have your question answered on the next Free Range Q&A, you can email freerange@avemariaradio.net. That's freerange@avemariaradio.net. You can also hit us up on Twitter and leave your questions at Facebook. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nick Tom. This is Al Kresta. And thank you for being here with this edition of Free Range Q&A.